So girls move it around. If you see your main dog at the brother of Canyon, just breathe and stop for real, and give it what you got. Just breathe and stop for real, give it what you got. Give it on the God, keep making it hot. Give it on the God, keep making it hot. Give it on the God, keep making it hot. Give it what you got, keep it making it hot.
The thunder rolls, ladies and gents, and so will your eyes after checking out this episode of WCW Thunder from the 26th of April 2000 in Syracuse, New York. There's a few reasons why I wanted to cover this episode. The main event's still a talking point when folks talk about the downfall of WCW. There's also a Bret Hart interview that I think goes largely ignored, even though it's the first time we've heard from Bret ever since he came off the road. And I also thought it would be good to check in on WCW's Wednesday night show, seeing as we're yet to do so ever since the Russo and Bischoff regime came into play. We'll be able to see if Thunder's improved or gotten worse, because honestly, the episodes I've already covered have actually been quite enjoyable. Needless to say, you'll get more out of this video if you've been following Reliving the War over the past few weeks. I won't be digging into why certain guys are fighting with each other or what's been happening on Nitro, but if you want a more self-contained video surrounding the main event and the fallout from tonight's title change, check out Season 1 Episode 10 of WCW Blunder. The show begins with Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo getting out of their rental car, and the boys have kidnapped David Arquette. David must have hired Doug Dillinger as his personal security guard. Arquette's already been roughed up. He continues to get roughed up as the guys make their way down to the ring, and as Jarrett manhandles David down the ramp, I have a confession to make. You're gonna hate me for this, but I think I now prefer the WWE Network version of Jeff Jarrett's music over his WCW Kid Rock rip-off theme. The Network song's actually a Jim Johnson creation, and I think I now prefer it because I've heard it so often every single week. Usually it's played up to 4 times in one night. So Jarrett obviously feels like it was because of Arquette that he lost the championship on Nitro. Jeff says David stepped into the Chosen One's world on Monday night, and tonight Jeff's he's gonna get all up in David's world. Sounds like a euphemism, doesn't it? Paige and Kanyon come out, and come to think of it, I'd actually put more blame on Kanyon for Jarrett losing the belt, but Jeff tells DDP to hold his horses or he'll snap David's neck in the middle of the ring. Jarrett wants Paige and Arquette in a tag team match against himself and Eric Bischoff. He also wants the WCW Championship put on the line, and man, I just hate it when a singles title gets defended in a tag team match. DDP says screw you, Arquette gets put on the floor. Jeff's arranged for some backup as Shane Douglas and Buff Bagwell appear on the rampway, but Team Package show up to take care of these two. Paige and Kanyon get in the ring while Bischoff and Jarrett get out with David Arquette in tow. Kimberly gets left all alone and she ends up having a heated exchange with her soon-to-be ex-husband. She ends up slapping Dallas across the face and DDP says to hell with it. He goes to DDT his wife. It sounds horrible, doesn't it? But thankfully he has second thoughts and he decides to walk away. Kim isn't as forgiving as her husband though. As Paige leaves the ring, she decides to hit him with a low blow. So DDP may have trouble giving himself a self-high five later in the hotel room. You know what I'm saying? A bit later, we see David Arquette getting dumped into a spooky looking corridor at the bottom of the arena. Don't worry, sweet princess, DDP will come to the rescue very soon. Look at this, the boys are back in town. We've got the original Nitro broadcast team together on Thunder, and it's great to hear from Bobby Heenan and Mike Tenay again. Backstage, Ernest Miller's all annoyed that Mean Gene told him to stop dancing. Gene tells the cat that Bischoff and Russo aren't happy with his actions on Nitro, saying as his interference led to Terry Funk retaining the hardcore belt. But Ernest has bigger problems right now, Mr. Bam Bigelow. These two are scheduled for a match and it looks like the cat wants to talk himself out of it. He apologises for attacking Bigelow at Spring Stampede, but he explains that he was only defending himself and Bam would have done the exact same thing. It looks like Bam Bam's about to accept this apology and leave the ring, but then Ernest says he saw Bigelow's mom and Bam Bam has bigger boobs than what she does. Them's fighting words, so the bell rings and the cat takes a big old flapjack. Stacy Keibler shows up to draw more smiley faces on her little page as the action continues in the ring. Bam Bam performs a high angle back suplex before going outside to grab a chair. What Bigelow didn't notice was Ernest putting on his ruby slipper, which remember is somehow an illegal weapon. Bam Bam takes the feliner when the ref takes the chair away. Ernest wins via pinfall. He celebrates by getting his groove on. Bigelow's not much of a dancer, so he wipes Miller out with a clothesline. Kidman and Tori pull into the arena in a BMW Z3, and we all know what they say about BMW drivers, right? Still, lovely car and a lovely woman. Page is walking around backstage looking for his lovely woman, David Arquette, but the Hollywood hotshots getting trolled by Bischoff and Jarrett. Better hurry up, Dallas, or this could turn nasty. Page's buddy Chris Kanyon got a match next against Shawn Stasiak, and Kanyon looks a bit worried about not having anyone to watch his back. Fear not, Chris, because here comes Curt Hennig. Curt joins the commentary table to get a closer look at Stasiak, seeing as Shawn's been running around calling himself the perfect one. Stasiak pulls off a fireman's carry and he poses on the turnbuckles. He's either trying to prove himself to Curt Hennig or he's trying to prove something to himself. Champion Kanyon comes back with right hands, followed by a swinging neckbreaker, and Curt shows us a pair of brass knucks while saying he has no need for them when fighting in the ring. One thing that came from this new era of WCW was the use of brass knucks that look like brass knucks, so they've killed my series long running gag. It's so good. Shawn pulls off a diving crossbody and Curt decides to get on the apron and hit the perfect one with those brass knucks. Can't believe Curt lied to us. And the match ends with a flatliner from Kanyon for the 1-2-3. After the bell, Curt gets in the ring to beat on Shawn for a bit while Mike Awesome comes down to get a piece of Kanyon. Chris was absolutely right to be concerned about the lack of backup, and he pays dearly with an awesome bomb through the commentary table. Back in the ring, Curt pulled off a perfect plex on Shawn, but Mike attacks Hennig. And when Dallas Page finally shows up, Mike sacrifices Stasiak and Mr. Gimmick Infringement takes a diamond cutter. Page then grabs a microphone, he accepts the tag team main event, and he will put the WCW Championship on the line. Whoever gets the pinfall or submission in that tag match will leave Thunder as the WCW Champion. Billy Boy Kidman comes out with Tori to cut a promo, but never mind that. Look who's in the audience tonight for Thunder, former WCW competitor Johnny B. Bad. The commentators refer to him by his real name, Mark Merrow, and I like how Mark's gone back in time and reverted back to his old look. Great to see Marvelous Mark back in WCW, though he unfortunately decided not to return following this episode of Thunder. He must have realised how shit it was. Kidman says it's real simple, the legend is dead. Nobody could put Hulk Hogan out of this business until Billy Kidman came along. Hogan said Billy couldn't draw in a flea market, but the truth is, according to Billy, these people love Kidman. Hogan's laid up in Tampa right now in a hospital bed after the beating he took from Billy and Mike Awesome on Monday, so Kidman's issuing an open challenge to anyone in the back. American Made plays in the arena and Hogan comes out. Not Hulk Hogan, Horace Hogan. You totally killed the audience with that one. Horace has been out with a knee injury, but he brings the fight to Billy on the outside. Horace Hogan defending the family honour, brother. He puts Billy down with a kick to the face when the two get inside the ring. Kidman gets sent out again after a clothesline. Double H goes full throttle here, but he ends up running into the guardrail and Kidman stays on Hogan Jr. by throwing him into the ring steps. Back inside the ring, Kidman mocks Wood from the Hood, but he should have focused on his opponent. He takes another clothesline, though Kidman's able to fire back with a Hurricane Rana. A snapmare and an elbow drop keeps Horace grounded, and Kidman goes upstairs only to miss a big splash. Eric Bischoff shows up as Horace builds his comeback. Kidman takes a press slam followed by a mean powerbomb. Double H grabs a steel chair to get some real payback on this little punk, but he only delivers one shot before putting Kidman down with a sit-down powerbomb. He then grabs a table from under the ring. The referee has no problem letting him crack on, but Tori gets on the apron to distract Mini Hogan with a punch to his mini penis, and this allows Bischoff to take out the referee and hit Horace with a chair shot. It ends with Kidman putting his opponent through the table with his sweet Tornado Bulldog, and Bischoff counts the 1-2-3 to give Kidman a pinfall win. I talked about this before, but Kidman just doesn't suit being a heel at this point in his career. Tank Abbott looks for Goldberg. Goldberg is once again not at TV this week, so it's time to beat up another innocent bystander. This time, Abbott picks the wrong guys. He goes after Mark Merrow and Syracuse boxing trainer Ray Rinaldi. Rinaldi's the first to get inside the ropes, but Merrow quickly jumps in the ring to take over. I was actually expecting a bigger reaction for Mark here as the two have a quick scuffle, but the crowd's pretty dead. It ends with security running in before that old Johnny B. Bad theme song plays in the arena. And that's it. Say goodbye to Mark Merrow again because, as mentioned, he didn't rejoin WCW after this appearance. We then see Sting backstage, and the filthy bastard hasn't showered since Monday Nitro. We're gonna see Sting compete next, but before that, we see that David Arquette's being saved by his knight in shining armour. DDP's located the Hollywood hotshot, and it looks like DDP doesn't want Arquette to compete in tonight's main event. Sting comes out to the arena to face the Wall brother, and this one's a tables match. It's one of the quickest table matches you'll ever see in your life because it consists of a dropkick, an inverted atomic drop, the Wall getting thrown into a table on the outside, and when Wall tries to get back in the ring, Sting lays in a few kicks. The Icon then goes for a sunset powerbomb, but he falls on his ass instead. He does get back in position though seconds later, and the Wall gets put through the furniture. Worst televised tables match in pro wrestling history? Probably. Though if you know anything worse, let me know in the comments. Vampiro runs down to get a piece of his new arch enemy, but it was totally pointless. Stinger fights off both the Wall and Vampiro, and it all ends with Vampiro taking a Stinger splash before getting sent out of the ring with a clothesline. Good job, Sting. Now please, mate, go and get washed. Oh joy, we have a Vince Russo, Shane Douglas and Buff Bagwell promo next on Thunder, three of the most beloved guys in the entire wrestling world. Russo says upstate Rochester is not part of New York, Bagwell says this place sucks, and speaking of sucking, Buff's tired of hearing about the total package. Bagwell's scheduled to face Lex at Slamboree, by the way. Shane Douglas, who faces Ric Flair at the pay-per-view, says he wants to shoot on his upcoming Slamboree opponent, but he doesn't say anything juicy at all. He says Ric Flair's going to get franchised at Slamboree, and that's when Team Package show up on the entranceway. Russo puts a wall of security goons in front of the ring as Ric Flair says Hulk Hogan's the man, the white-collared champion, apparently. He then calls himself, Sting, and the Total Package superstars with legendary status. They've paid their dues, they've partied and got up the next morning for the love of the business. The Millionaires Club is the blood of this sport. Flair and company earn respect by being the best they could be on any given night. That's why they're still around, and that's why Vince Russo hates them. Flair calls Vince a mark for the business and a mark for the Millionaires Club. And as for Shane Douglas calling himself the franchise, Flair recognises only one franchise in pro wrestling, and that's the man called Sting. Until Shane's wrestled Kerry Von Erich in Texas, a bit hard to do during this era. Bruiser Brody in Japan, again a bit hard to do. Piper, Hogan, Sting, Bret Hart, Lex Luger, until Shane wrestles all these guys, with half of them being totally impossible to wrestle in the year 2000, Douglas will never be Ric Flair. At the pay-per-view, Douglas will have the chance to touch greatness, but the only way Flair's going to face Shane is if Vince Russo promises not to interfere. And if Russo does interfere, then Flair's going to get 5 minutes with Mr. New York all alone. Russo says this is supposed to be the part of the show where he's a chicken shit heel, but Vince actually likes this idea. Vince says he'll own Ric Flair because it's his time and he, and I quote, has the big apples. Lex tries to embarrass Buff by saying he used to be a punk kid who sat in the back of Sting and his cars while travelling up and down the road. He says Buff used to try and save money by sleeping on roll-up beds. And as for Russo, Vince needs to speak to Ric Flair with respect. Russo says he's happy Luger survived that crash known as the Lex Express. Vince knows he won't have a body like Luger's and he'll never have a beautiful woman by his side like Elizabeth. But speaking of Liz, Russo had a little look through the books and it turns out Lex doesn't own a manager's contract for Elizabeth. She has a WCW contract. This means Vince Russo owns Elizabeth, and this means Russo can send security up the ramp to retrieve what he calls his property. Flair and Lex begin fighting the security guards. Flair makes it into the ring, and while all this is happening, Russo manages to take Liz away. He's struggling so fucking bad when trying to get her up that ramp. But Liz has been taken away from Lex, and she gets driven away in Russo's car during a commercial break. DDP wants David Arquette to get some medical attention, but David's a real man and he doesn't need some medical professional to check over his very apparent injuries. David's going to fight tonight whether Paige likes it or not. Back in the arena, we've got a real stinker going down as Paisley takes on Tammy Sytch. Tammy said before the match she knows what the guys came to see tonight, and yeah, about that. I'm not so sure if this is what they came to see. I'm sorry, but sunny days are now over, Tammy. You've been surpassed. Tammy tries a side headlock transition into a hammerlock, but she just dumps Paisley on the mat instead. A for effort. We then fall into familiar territory with a hair pull from Paisley, followed by the two competitors rolling around on the mat. Candido provides his woman with a little assistance, and this allows Tammy to choke Paisley out with a piece of cloth. Candido again helps Tammy out by choking Paisley on the middle rope. Paisley shakes it off. She hits Tammy with a low blow. Is this illegal in a women's match? I don't know, but Stone Cold Sonny pulls off a Stone Cold Stunner, and just like on Nitro, she dives from the top rope all the way to the floor. Candido took most of the impact here. Candido gets in the ring. He takes a low blow. Paisley then pulls off a handspring back elbow on her opponent that looked pretty shit, to be fair. And the match ended with an equally bad looking DDT from Paisley. The losers attack the artist and Paisley after the bell. The crowd couldn't care less. And that's 6 minutes of my life that I'm never getting back. Booker T faces Mike Awesome next, and before the match, Booker had an interview with Mean Gene Okerlund. It's announced here that Booker's facing Scott Steiner at the next pay-per-view, but Book gets interrupted by former Steiner freak Tylene Buck. Tylene fancies herself as a backstage interviewer, but she looks high as a kite. Tylene wants to know how Booker's going to approach this match against Awesome. Book says Awesome might make it if he doesn't screw around when facing him, and Booker ends the interview early so he can go out and head to the ring. Scotty Steiner sees that Booker's making his entrance, so Big Papa Pump comes out following the competitors to take a spot at the commentary table. As the match gets underway, Scott makes fun of Hulk Hogan worrying about his spot. His bald spot, his limp gimp to the ring spot, his age spot, you get the message. Scott also says he is in the new blood when he says none of the new blood are old enough to take Hogan's spot. Awesome pulls off an overhead belly to belly followed by a big body slam and a leg drop. Booker fires back with a spinning back kick and his signature running forearm. On the outside, Awesome comes back by throwing Booker into the guardrail and the big man dumps a chair on his opponent. And the action resumes in the ring with Awesome's impressive diving clothesline. A chin lock from Awesome makes this episode of Thunder really worth watching, and what's even better is the fact that it stays locked in for a very, very long time. The two get up, Booker pulls Awesome in for a back suplex. We then see the axe kick from Book, and this one could be all over. After a spinneroonie, Booker goes upstairs for the missile dropkick. Scott Steiner leaves the commentary table to hit Book with his US belt. This allows Awesome to perform a running Awesome bomb, and that's it. Awesome beats Booker via pinfall. After the bell, Scott gets in the ring to put the match loser in a Steiner recliner, but Booker gets some unlikely help from Lash LaRue and Chavo Guerrero. These two are easily taken out, but then Hugh Morse runs in to help, as does Van Hammer. These are all guys who Eric Bischoff ripped into 2 weeks ago for not stopping a Millionaires Club attack on the New Blood. And this, ladies and gents, is the beginning of a new faction named the MIA, the Misfits in Action. Before we look at our main event, we have a Bret Hart interview conducted in Bret's home by Scott Hudson. Here's what Bret had to say about his return to Nitro 2 weeks ago and why he went after Hulk Hogan.
Bret, we now know that it was Hulk Hogan that you wiped out in Rockford on Nitro with that chair. The questions have been answered. It was Hogan. Why Hogan and why now?
I think anyone that knows me knows that, like everything that I've ever tried to accomplish, everything I've ever done in the wrestling business was to try to be the best there is, the best there was, to be that for real. Hulk Hogan stopped me from beating him. He ran from me, he ducked me, and he cost me what I wanted the most, which was a win over him. Isn't it convenient that Hulk Hogan shows up as soon as I'm gone? Does anyone notice that? As soon as I get injured and it's like, hey, he's hurt and he may never come back, here comes Hulk Hogan marching back into the picture.
Bret, to play devil's advocate here, there are those that say that with what happened with Hulk Hogan in the early 90s, what happened with Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels a couple of years ago, that you're susceptible to some mind games. Do you think this is more mind games from Hogan? Do you think he really is afraid of you?
Well, he must be afraid of me. To have been the man in wrestling for so long. I'm not a rookie or anything. I've been around forever. I've been around maybe as long as Hulk Hogan. And if you really look at it, say, why are these two biggest names in wrestling, why has there never been a match? And I can tell you why. It certainly wasn't because I was afraid. It's because Hulk Hogan knew the one wrestler that could take everything he's got and still get up and apply that technical wrestling to beat him, because that's his weakness. I was the one guy that would have beat Hulk Hogan when he was Hulkamania running wild. I would have beat him then and I would have beat him now. I would have beat him under any circumstance that he could have created. Well, they call it passing the torch. You know, sometimes you have to pass the torch whether you like it or not. Sometimes your time comes and it's, you know, Andre passed the torch back to Hulk Hogan. And when it came for time for Hulk Hogan to pass the torch to me, he ran off to the WCW is what he did. You know, I'm saying it sadly right here, which possibly could be the end of my reign in the WCW. I came here for Hulk Hogan. Basically, the guy I rely on is Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff's been a friend to me from the time he's responsible for me coming. He promised me Hulk Hogan, which was something that brought me to the WCW. And I believe Eric Bischoff when he tells me that it was all Hogan's fault. That Hogan derailed every idea that ever came across the table. Like, okay, we finally got Bret Hart versus Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was scratch a line through and say it's not going to happen. You know, I've been frustrated for a long time in this house and can't help but picture Hulk Hogan's face. And it makes me stop. I thought, I have to quit writing. I got to go clear my head. I'll go to a hockey game and everything will be great until somebody comes up and asks me how things are in the WCW. And it starts again, the whole thing. I can't find any peace. This is more personal than people have any idea. And I will make Hulk Hogan pay and pay and pay and pay. And he would be so sorry that he never had the guts to step in the ring with me and settle it like a man. And since we're openly not going to be men about it, then that's fine with me.
I know Bret Hart doesn't want to be forced out due to injury. You want to go out on your own terms. What are those terms as we sit here in Calgary?
Well, if I could visualize my final quest in wrestling, it would be taking Hulk Hogan, putting his legs through in the sharpshooter, turning him over, and waiting for that sweet sound of him screaming out that he's had enough. That is the way I should go out.
DDP tells David Arquette to stay in the back for this main event, and David agrees. He's too banged up, and hurt or not, he's not really in any shape to perform. David then decides he's going to be a man and stand by Dallas's side after all, so the two head to the ring to take on New Blood members Eric Bischoff and Jeff Jarrett. Remember, whoever gets the pinfall win or submission win becomes the new WCW champion. The New Blood have a surprise in store. Kimberly's going to serve as our special referee. And once Kim makes her entrance, the action begins with DDP and Jarrett fighting in the ring while Arquette and Bischoff fight on the outside and on the entranceway. Eventually, these two disappear to the back and Paige is left all alone with Double J. Jarrett takes a swinging neckbreaker, Dallas goes for the cover, and after counting to 1, Kimberly complains that she just broke a nail. DDP gets angry. He approaches Kim before Jarrett tries to attack. Double J ends up taking a sit-down powerbomb, but this time Kim just simply refuses to count. Looks like Dallas is in a whole lot of trouble here, and this gets confirmed when Kim tries to fast count Dallas when Jarrett tries a cover. Eventually, Eric Bischoff returns, and it looks like he's taking care of David Arquette for good. He gets on the apron, Jarrett tags him in. He delivers a kick to DDP's midsection, and he drops an elbow similar to the one you used to drop on your little brother when you were 9 years old. In comes Jarrett again, Paige gets pummeled in the corner, Eric gets another tag, but both he and his partner get wiped out with a double clothesline. As Paige takes on both guys, David Arquette begins making his way down to the ring, and when Paige goes for a diamond cutter, he gets pushed into his soon-to-be ex-wife. He decides to give Kimberly one last kiss while Jarrett grabs his world belt, but Arquette also spears Bischoff just before Dallas gets wiped out. David covers Eric, Jarrett covers Paige, referee Mickey J runs in because Kim's so taken back by that kiss I guess, and Mickey decides to count Bischoff's shoulders to the mat. David Arquette wins the match, and therefore David Arquette is the new WCW World Heavyweight Champion. Now, I've already talked about all this in that previous WCW Blunder video I mentioned earlier on, so I don't want to go in depth about the ramifications of this title change and how badly this was viewed by long-time WCW supporters. But it's important to remember 3 things. First, David Arquette didn't want to win the championship. Second, he donated every cent he made from WCW to the families of wrestlers who passed away, including Brian Pillman's family and Martha Hart. And third, Vince Russo does not regret this title change a single bit, and he also said he'd do it all over again if given the opportunity. WCW wanted headlines, and the cost didn't matter. DDP seems happy that his tag team partner won the title, which also doesn't make a terrible lot of sense, but there you have it. One of the most questionable booking decisions in all of pro wrestling, and it all happened on Thunder. Booker T told the story of Arquette being really excited when he got backstage, and in his excitement, he asked Booker how many times he had won the championship. When Booker said he had never won the belt, Arquette's mood completely changed and he felt really bad for celebrating. On Nitro next week, Arquette would mention Booker by name as one of the guys who really deserved the WCW championship, and so Booker credits David as the first guy who ever went to bat for him on WCW programming. Now you're all caught up and now you know why Nitro's gonna be total chaos when I cover it on Thursday for Reliving the War. We now know why Liz isn't with Team Package anymore. We know Bret Hart's true feelings towards Hulk Hogan, even though they weren't much of a mystery to begin with. We know why Booker T's formed an alliance with Hugh Morris, Chavo Guerrero, Van Hammer and the others. And we now know how David Arquette won the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Again, do check out that episode of Blunder to learn all about David's title win. I know you're thinking I've left a ton out here, but I can safely say it's been covered in that video, so do take the time to check it out. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. It's the true heroes of war who check out these Thunder and SmackDown additional videos, so believe me when I say I really appreciate you taking the time to check this video out. Thank you again, and please take care.